On Friday, we reviewed the adding integers rules. If you remember, if the signs are the same, you're going to add and keep the sign. So 4 and 1 are both positive, so you'll just add and your answer's positive. But -4 plus -1, they're both negative, so you'll still add and you'll get -5. If the signs are different, you will subtract and take the sign of the number with the larger absolute value. So we had -4 plus 1. The signs are different, so you subtract. And the answer is -3 because the absolute value of -4 is larger than the absolute value of 1. And in 4 plus -1, subtracting, the absolute value of 4 is larger than the absolute value of -1. You also can picture your number line. When you're starting at -4, you're all the way to the left. And then the plus sign is telling you to move to the right once, and you'll end up at -3. And if you're at 4, you're on the right-hand side, and then the -1 will tell you to move to the left 1. So we went up to the boards, and we did some practice there on adding rational numbers, adding fractions. And we did some practice with fractions that had the same denominator and then fractions that had different denominators. And these were the mild, medium, and spicy problems we did. Some of the problems that we did. So here were some of the mild, medium, and spicy problems we did. So the first one is -7/10 plus -1/10. You'll notice the denominators are the same, so we're going to keep that denominator. And because the signs are both the same, we're going to just add. We have -8/10, and then we're going to simplify and get -4/5. The second one, we have -1/8 plus 3/8. The signs are different, so we're going to subtract. But because the denominators are the same, we can keep that denominator. And then we end up with 3 minus 1 is 2. That's a messy 2. And then that simplifies to 1/4. And here we have 3/8 plus -1/3. Signs are different, so we need to change them. And so we have least common multiple with 8 and 3. So 8 and 3 both go into 24. But we have to rename them. So we multiplied 8 by 3 to get to 24, so we have to multiply the numerator by 3 as well. So we get 9. And 3 times 8 is 24, and 8 times -1 will be -8. Signs are different, so we're going to subtract and keep the sign of the number with the larger absolute value. Now in this example, I'm going to do it two ways. We've got a mixed number, and one thing I did notice is that the denominators aren't the same. So 3 and 2 both go into 6. So I'm going to rename it. 1/3 is the same as 2/6, and 1/2 is the same as 3/6. So here I end up getting 5 and 5/6. Now your classmates, some of them took the 1 and 1/3 and they changed it to a fraction greater than 1. So 3 times 1 is 3 plus 1 is 4. And 4 times 2 is 8 plus 1 is 9. And then they changed it to 6. So they got 27 and 8, which then gave them 35/6, which then they changed into 5 and 5/6. Either way is fine. Now in this second one, I'm going to just turn them into fractions greater than 1. And then when we get to class, we'll talk about how do you know which method might be easier. So we have 11/4 to, oh no, what am I doing? Sorry. 11/4 and -15/2. So this is 11/4 plus -30/4. And then we will subtract these and get -19/4, which which is -4 3/4. Now, these are spicy. So we have 2 2/4 plus -1 1/10. So 4 and 10, that common denominator will be 20. You could do 40, but then you'll just have to do a little bit more simplifying at the end. So we have 2 20 10/20 plus -1 and 2/20. So 2 minus 1 is 1, and 10 minus 2, oops, sorry, that's a 20, is 8/20. It's positive because 2 is bigger than -1, so we have 1 and 4/10, or 1 and 2/5. Getting a little crammed in here. Now we have -1 1/3 plus -2 5/6. So the signs are the same, so I'm going to be adding these together. So my answer is going to be like -3 and change. So we have -1, I have to change it to 6, it's 2/6, plus -2 and 5/6, which is going to give us -3 and 7/6. And now 7/6 we have to change to 1 and 1/6, so we have -4. Now the last problem is a word problem. It is number 11 on page 74, I believe. Yep. So it says, a hedge has grown 7/12 of a foot over the summer. Silas trimmed 3/4 foot off the hedge. One of the fractions should be written as a negative number. Which one is it and why? And then find the sum of the two numbers to determine the total change in the hedge's height. So that one we considered a ghost pepper one. And so if you want to try it, go ahead and we'll check your work when you come back in. Of time. So we looked at, numbers like 2/5 plus 1/5. So the denominators are the same. So you'll keep that denominator and then you'll just add the numerators. However, if you had 2/5 and 1/2, the denominators are not the same. So we have to rename one or both of the fractions to make them equivalent to where we can add them together because the denominators need to stay the same. And remembering that 2 and 5 both go into 10 evenly, so we're going to rename them in tenths. And remembering 5 times 2 is 10, therefore 2 times 2 is 4. And 2 times 5 is 10, and 1 times 5 is 5. So we ended up with 9/10. And then we ran into 3 and 1/3 plus -1 and 1/6. So renaming this into 6. And now we have, the signs are different, so we have to subtract. So one of the ways that we did it is we just did 2/6 right here. Minus 1/6 will give you 1/6, and 3 minus 1 will give you 2. Now some other students will go right to here. They'll take 3 1/3 and turn it into 10/3. 3 times 3 is 9 plus 1 is 10. And then 1 and 1/6, they'll do 6 times 1 is 6 plus 1 is 7. And then they'll change the denominators into 6. And then they will subtract and get the same answer. So whichever method works for you is fine.